found it.
Oh.
Hello, people. Welcome to another edition of Create or Die Trying with Sagai. Of course, you know I'm Sagai, right? So I don't need to do that intro all over again. So let's just get right into the program. Last week we talked a little bit about just some intro into what we're going to do on this show. We talked a little on creativity and sort of things to talk about, communication design, and what the origins of creativity are, and again my own definition of creativity and what it means to me. And I said this week we'll be talking about comics, right? Yeah, so we'll be talking about comic books today. And wow, am I excited about the comic industry in Nigeria as of today. A lot has happened in the last 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks, so many titles have been teased that are released and just come out, and everything is looking like we're in the comic era right now. Like this is the comic era of Nigeria. Like this period is going to be marked as the comic era. You know, when history is told of Nigeria and all that. Now, first off, yes, I'm going to brag a little bit. I'm going to talk about June 12. Yes, June 12 issue 6 is out. Yeah, I created June 12, as most of you already know, and Vortex is publishing that. So June 12 issue 6 came out, I think, today. June 12 issues came out today, and that is awesome. Really, I didn't know it was going to come out today, and here it is, it's out. Then, the last 2 days, I think I've seen teasers from Spoof Comics as well, about like 4 titles coming out at the same time. Like, wow! I mean, who does that at the same time? It's like their first launch out as Spoof Comics anyways, and they have 4 titles in the offing coming up later on in June anyway. There's Boxer, there's my personal favorite, and I hope it's hot stuff, Voyager, and 2 other ones, Jinx, and what's this other guy? So that's, yeah, Vantage. Vantage has been out before, I guess. We had a teaser of Vantage a while back, but now we have all these other titles joining it. And Epoch Comics, Martin Okonkwo's comic book company, is coming out with Ages, issue 3. The 3rd chapter is coming out. Like, seriously, we waited long enough for that one, and you all agree that that 2nd issue was just like mind-blowing. It was awesome, it was great, but like good comic book and all. So I mean, with all of that happening, it's safe to say that doing comics is like an interesting thing around. Like in Nigeria right now, it's awesome. It's a good way to communicate, and it's a great platform to create on. You know, it's a good platform for creativity. You can create just about anything with that. And with that in mind, comes something. How is it easy to create the, in quote, perfect comic book character or perfect comic book title as well? You know, everybody's doing it. Does that mean anybody can do it? And if anybody can do it, what does it take to actually do it and do it right? So today we'll be talking about comic book creation 101. So we'll be asking ourselves some core questions, and you're free to chip in some of those questions as we go on. Chip it to me, I'll answer some of those questions that I can as I talk on. Right, I've been asked that question several times. So what do I have to do to create a good comic book? I mean, what makes a great comic book title or character? I've been asked that question all the time. So my answer is always almost the same, but then let me try and break it down from the basics. You get the question, so what makes a great comic book? Is it the basic concept, the characters, the storyline, the artwork, or the colors, or the graphics? What exactly makes a great comic book? And the answer is always this: the story. Without a great foundational story, a comic book is just another comedy skit that you just tell it to go, it's gone. Just something that is like a statement in the discussion. It doesn't encompass the entire conversation. It's just one statement as you're going and it's gone. So a comic book's core, at its core, it's about the story. And then you now ask the question, what do you mean the story? Is it issue 1 or issue 2 or issue 10? No. The story in that, what is stories behind the characters, behind the vision, behind the goal of the comic book? Why are you even creating this comic book in the first place? Who is it for? Why do you think it's needed? Who will buy it? Why should they buy it? Why should they read it? Talkers of even paying their money for it. You know? Questions come out, and that is where the story comes from. Now, most of us are used to doing one thing. We create comic books internally. We go inside first, come up with some ideas based on the little knowledge we have of something, and then we create a title, a comic book character. Alright? Oftentimes the character even comes with the costume first, then we'll give a name to it, then we'll try to find a story to sum up what the character looks like, all in one. That might create some great characters by fluke, by some serious or some accidents that happen. But if you want to get it right, start externally. Study your environment. What does the environment really need? In case that begins to sound like some scientific experiment, I'm asking you to do research and go all over the place looking for information. Think about it this way. Why do you think Superman was created at the time it was? And why did it catch on so quickly? Why did people actually embrace it that easily? Why was it such a great comic book back then? Now, go back into the history, you find out that the two guys who created it, they were not anywhere near looking like Superman. They were skinny guys with limited powers to do anything about anything. But they all dreamt about something. They saw the evil in the society, they saw what was going on around them, and they felt if only they could do something about it, if only they could have the powers to actually make some change, make a difference around them. And they couldn't immediately do that, but they realized just about everybody wished the same. What if there was this guy, what if there was this man, this person somewhere who could actually make a difference, who could do things that we can't do right now? Alright? And history will tell you they modeled Superman, including the external underwear, on the gymnasts of those days. Now, gymnasts were like the superheroes of that time, like 1935, the 30s and all that. Gymnasts were these guys that go on the highest pose, walk on tightropes in distances that any normal human being would forever be afraid of. But they walk these things without nets, without anything. They swim all over the place, and they were like invincible. They could do no wrong, really. So Superman was modeled after those characters. And then we found a story about why would somebody that powerful even need to do anything like that on Earth? I mean, why would a human being with that kind of a power want to do something? So the theory came. What kind of person would this man have to be to have those powers and still do the things he does for good? And then all the story came. I guess somewhere along the line they felt that a proper human being would not have those powers and be a good person, because it's actually easier to be a villain than to be a superhero. So I guess hence the need to pitch him as somebody from outside the planet, somebody who is not us but has been part of us. Okay? Now we can relate to the fact that he grew up in a small town on Earth, but also relate to the fact that he's from another planet, hence why, okay, we understand his powers, that's why he has those powers, so he could do this. Alright? So if you check out what just happened with Superman, you see that they had a reason for creating the guy, and it was actually about the public and themselves. A character that they could relate with, that the public could relate with, and that everybody could understand why he does what he does. Simple. So we have that character has morphed over the years with a lot of stories coming as the world has changed, things have changed with it, as well as Superman has changed with it. Now it comes to other characters. I was profoundly affected by a book I bought about Marvel a while back, about 6 years ago. I read it, and then I realized that back when Marvel started, as Timely Comics and all of that, they were not creating superheroes that they felt they took a fancy to. They were creating characters based on what the people wanted at the time. There were cowboys all over the way, and in movies and things raining, they created cowboy characters and cowboy comic books. Then it became horror films that were the rage at that time. Then they created horror comic books, stories that people already were familiar with, and they told it in a different twist. Okay? So back to our question. How do you get a good story for your character? How do you even create a character in the first place? To go into that, the basic answer is, what does the society really need? Seriously, you cannot create a Nigerian character by studying America or even Japan. You cannot create a Nigerian character and do that. I can tell you firsthand, my first character, Captain Nigeria, was a weird combination of Rambo, Captain America, and Superman. He had a cape, he was wearing Captain America's boots, had Rambo hair with the entire bandana, everything, complete with Rambo shapes, right? And he already had long hair like Rambo. With long hair like Rambo, I gave him the name Larry Thompson. Seriously, I could lie and tell you, the guy is this half Nigerian, his mother is American, so had long hair when he was born, he stayed all his life in America. I could give all that story, but immediately I start that, the average Nigerian is lost on that story. They can't relate with it. All right. I think I mentioned a while back that, I was at Spoof Comics recently, and then I mentioned this while we were talking about characters. Somebody asked a question about what are the things to consider when creating a comic book. So I said, look, you want to create a comic book that the average person on the streets can relate with. Simple. You want the situation where you're passing on the streets, at vendor stands, and people are discussing your comic book title. And these people probably don't even know half of what they're reading, but they understand it by visuals and by little words that you chip it in there, but they get the story. And they love it. They can relate with it. That is your goal. You need to get the masses to actually be able to like your character. Because Superman is not Superman because the rest of the world loved him. No. America loved him first. Everybody loved him first in America. Then we caught on the rage. You know, manga is manga today because it's loved in Japan, loved in Asia. They love it. They love it first, then we got it, and then we are liking it as well. So you create for your immediate environment. Your comic title, your comic story, your characters have got to be created for your immediate environment. Just like technology. A technology that's not created for where you live in, it's just not it at all. So it starts with that. Create a title or a character that your people, your society can relate with immediately. Alright, so you ask yourself some simple questions. What exactly are my people watching right now? What exactly is popular in my environment? Alright? A while back I asked myself certain questions, and that's what prompted some of the titles we're creating right now at IC Studios. What's the staying power in things like Super Story, like Nkombe, like Label, all those TV shows that have lasted this long on the Nigerian airwaves? What's the staying power in them? It's very simple. Educated and non-educated alike all love a good mystery. You see, Nigeria it's packed with a lot of people, Africa perhaps, but Nigeria I'm very sure of, packed with a lot of people who love the mysterious. As much as we don't like the mysterious, we want to see it, we love it, we love seeing it, we love hearing about it. We don't even want to solve the problem, we don't even want a solution to it, we just want to see that problem. You understand? Okay, this problem exists, something says that the problem itself exists. So, create a title, a character that has a mystery about it. Maybe a solution, maybe a way for things to go. But the mystery is, how does that solution come into being? How does that solution come into something people can actually use? You know, I've had people ask me about June 12th. What prompted that character besides the name and all that? Even though the name did, the original name June 12 was a factor in creating the character. But one core thing was the question. I put this as I played around the world about. What would happen if a regular guy in a bus got tired of the bus being stuck in traffic, got off the bus, carried the entire bus, flew over the entire traffic line, landed on the other side, and go back into the bus and tell the driver to move? I can already imagine the response of everybody in that bus. Nobody is going to follow that guy anywhere. The driver, the passengers, everybody's going to get off. Likely because they love the idea. Like, this guy has powers, but seriously, this guy has powers. Now, they would love to see him next time pull out a bus from a river. They would love to see him next time make sure the traffic doesn't even happen. But people probably won't relate with him as like they wanted to be their next door neighbor because he's too powerful. Doesn't that sound like Superman? As much as people love him, they really don't want to live near him. It's just that's it. That's what power does. That's what mystery does. Okay, so first, create for your environment a character that people can relate with. Even if you're going to add a bit of fantasy to it, even if you're going to add a little bit of technology to it, or even take it beyond what it is now, always create something that people in your immediate environment can relate with a name that they can relate with first, and then the international community can also relate with as well. Okay, we've had this discussion about, can I create a Yoruba character name like Busa or Bankongbi and all that? You know, those are great names in Yoruba wise, right? But immediately you have those kind of names, you're already cutting off certain people in liking your character. I don't want to have a character that I like, that I can't pronounce his name. I mean, a Yoruba guy can pronounce Bankambi easily, but I'm sure we're going to have to create a whole website or video tutorial to teach people how to pronounce Bankambi if the comic book is going to go anywhere. Alright, so we might want to look into the name of that character or title as well. That becomes the next thing. So you have the great story that you want to tell about this character, why he's doing what he's doing. Okay, and his purpose. His purpose is important. Excuse me. Now, the purpose of the character, the theme of the story, the reason for doing what it does is one aspect of the story behind the character. The other aspect is you, the creator. What do you want out of the story? What do you want to do with the comic title? Are you all out just trying to scare people? Are you all out trying to entertain them? Are you trying to educate them? Are you trying to be religious? Are you trying to teach them something about the spiritual? Are you trying to teach them about life? Or anything, mathematics, whatever. But you need to determine from the beginning, what do you want to achieve with that comic book? Do you want to create an icon of hope? Something people can look forward to and say, you know what, with this guy out there, with this sort of thing happening, it is actually possible for something good to happen in the world. Or do you just want people to read this thing, enjoy themselves, have a good laugh, and then go back to their regular life without thinking about it? Or do you want to have a mixture of all of this thing we're talking about? Is it all action, like a friend of mine back in secondary school? Is it all action? The first page, two characters meet each other, fight and fight and fight for the next 22 pages, and then one of them flies off and tells the other, till the next time. And then they come back in the second issue and do the same rumble in the jungle again. You can do that. But the question is, answer that. What exactly do you want to achieve with that title at the beginning? Know that from the beginning. Alright? Personally, I have found that comic books, maybe particularly in Nigeria, its main purpose will be education rather than entertainment. I say this because there's a whole lot of things about Nigeria that most of us don't know, and we were born here. You know, there are practically like about 5% of us Lagosians who know the history of Lagos. How many people actually understand how Nigeria came to be? What happened before 1914? What happened after 1914, before 1960? What exactly are these things? And then I happened to stumble on a very old book published in 1932, written from the 18-something to the 1920s by Reverend Samuel. And it's about the history of the Yorubas. And in that book alone, you could pick out like 500 story points and comic characters and titles that you can actually either fictionalize, you know, wrap a little fiction around it, or go ahead and tell the story as it is in history. And you still have great story to tell in there. Okay? Which also links up to the other aspect of forming your story. Like we said about creativity, you cannot create in a vacuum. So if you are going to create your comic titles, you have to read. That's the only way. Even if you are going to create some chemicals and create some comic book science to back up your story, it will be more believable if you have a little bit of actual science hidden in there somewhere. Okay? Don't tell me potassium and water don't explode. Alright, they do. But if you can tell us that there's a new element that was discovered, that if you put it in between the two, the explosion doesn't happen until after 5 minutes, then we have something. So we have a little bit of reality or truth in there, wrapped with a little bit of fiction. And then it becomes a little more believable. Okay? So you need to think about that. You need to read a lot more about the things you want to even write your comic book about. Okay? Now comes the other part of things. Visuals don't come yet. Alright, but I know visuals tend to advance the idea itself. You start with the script then. While developing the story, certain things come up. Characterization. What's the character or nature of behavior of your characters? The main character, the sub-characters, the villains, the bad guys, the regular guys. If he has a landlord in his alter ego life, what's the attitude of the landlord? Has a wife, what's her attitude? His own attitude, is he educated, is he not? Does he speak pidgin all throughout? Does he speak excellent Queen's English all throughout? You know, you need to define the character of each character, like that. Is it right? You've heard the statement, Superman, Boy Scout. To me, it's like the the quintessential good guy, good boy, upper level of things. Sometimes he does something that are totally like, you're too good with two shoes, man. You need to think differently. Be like Batman a little bit, but hey, Batman is Batman. He doesn't trust anybody, he doesn't trust everybody. Superman is Superman, they're different. So those are two different attitudes and characters, and they don't mix. The day Batman smiles, I mean, everybody was shocked. Batman really smiled. The day I saw him smile in an animation, I was shocked. Okay? So that's his attitude, that's his character. Define your character's attitude. Define the way they talk. Define the way they walk. Define the kind of clothes they wear. Alright? Define the kind of place they shop in, the kind of food they eat. Yeah, it's a lot of work. You got to find out exactly, does my character live in VI? Does he live in Kano? Does he live somewhere in Jos? Or is he a Delta guy? You know, what does he like the most? Define all of those things, and then the visuals come next. What does your character look like? Alright? There's so much about that, and I guess one of the biggest arguments we're having right now is spandex or no spandex. And then, like in the advice of famous Edna Mode of Incredibles, no capes, or should there be capes? Is there a case for capes in comic characters these days? What is the role of the cape? For me, the cape is a matter of utility. If you're a guy who can turn everybody to dust by snapping your fingers, you don't need an aerodynamic suit. You can be completely covered. You don't even need to walk like do legs. You don't even need to be able to walk. Alright? Just turn everybody to mush at any moment. So the capes is a matter of utility. If you're going to be jumping rooftops at night, you better have a combination of both. I mean, Batman still jumps rooftops, and he has a very, like, one of the weirdest and longest capes in the superhero kingdom. Okay? So he still has capes on, so Superman still wears capes. But then, spandex or not to spandex? For creators in the Nigerian area, I don't know about spandex, really, honestly. I think ultimately to boil down to what's your character about. You see, the case of common points with Strike Guard, for instance. I mean, I like Strike Guard. The concept is beautiful, and then the spandex is easily explained. It's an idea he has, like all of us. Our first superhero characters were all spandex guys now, because all the characters we knew back then had spandex. So our first character that we created were all spandex people. So this guy had a vision of a spandex character, and then his friend died, and he got the ability to actually be a superhero. Sure, he went straight for the spandex. So if you have that kind of a story that can back up the costume you're putting your characters in, then fine, go ahead. It doesn't matter what they're wearing, so far you have the correct story to back that up. Even if every time somebody keeps telling him, look, in Nigeria it's very hot, why are you wearing that? Look, if there's a story, if this guy is constantly cold, he can wear spandex. Alright? Whatever the reason is, you can always find the story to back that up. So for costume, it's really left to relatability. Okay? I had a discussion with somebody a while back, a rather famous filmmaker, Ogatu Nekedani, about our Nigerian superhero characters and all that. And one of the first things he told me was like, look, why would a Nigerian child look at this character and relate with it? I mean, look at the nose, look at the mouth, look at the costume they are wearing. And then it struck me a little bit, alright? And I did respectively disagree with him completely. I mean, not completely, but disagree with that particular notion. Because look, we have to have ourselves a question about Nigeria. What exactly is Nigerian? How do you dress Nigerian? I mean, how do you look? Am I dressed Nigerian right now? Is this European? Is this American? How do you dress Nigerian? If I was wearing Ankara as a shirt, would that be Nigerian? I think the problem is that maybe we're not able to define what Nigerian is, but we're able to define what Yoruba is, Ibibio is, Efik is, Igbo is, Kanuri is, Fulani is, Hausa is. We're able to just define what those are, but we can't define exactly what Nigerian is. So Nigerian become one free thing. You're able to be flexible about what it means to be Nigerian. But the core thing is, we're able to now put some things to that. Hold on a minute. I think we're getting some question in. See, I have to get back on my own live broadcast just to be sure to get you guys questions. So, costume. It's not something. Wow. Okay. Seriously, YouTube is really tripping right now. That issue 6 is awesome. You guys should go check it out. Yes, I'm plugging. It's my title. Come on. Do I have it right? Alright, okay. So, let's see. We have questions coming up. Okay. Story is called my comic book. The comic should solve or relate to the society. Start externally. That's the truth. Okay, you are completely on point. You always start externally. It's not really about you. That's why I am totally against bedroom comic book creation. Don't sit in the corner of your room and create a character and say, man, this guy is awesome. He's awesome. See, it's not about what you think. It's really not about what you think, okay? The one, you're not going to be the only one to buy or appreciate your comic book. People out there have got to love it too. So you create with them in mind. Start from them, okay? To do what I shared, don't worry, just you can still join us, okay? Just keep it in. Just keep it in. Okay? Now, we're talking about visuals in terms of the costume. What it looks like. See, my guys, feel free with the costume. If you, in fact, I'd love to see Batman in Agbada. I think I drew him with that one. It doesn't matter what your character is wearing. If your story backs it up, carry go. Alright? Just carry go. Just make sure it works for your story. Okay? That's just about it. Make sure it works for your story. Then, once you have that visuals done, then the cast, the people that make it on, that makes the story worth it, because no character stands by himself, okay, or herself. We need to get into that. I was saying something before. Let me get back to it. Let me rewind. I was saying something about my discussion with Nekarani and all of that. It comes to something about relatability of the Nigerian character. I realized that if we're going to create the perfect Nigerian superhero, alright, we must make it something that Nigerians can buy into first. Ultimately, that's the goal. Alright, and one of the first things we might need to get rid of, if it's possible, believe me, I love the word superhero or hero. One of the things we might need to get rid of is, can we create our own genre of heroes? Like, can we give them a name? Can we give them a title, a subtitle that we can own? You know, manga is so Japanese, nobody else can create it. American manga is not manga, manga is manga. Simple. Alright? So is there something we can create that can be ours, that we can actually hold on to? I think I'm going to leave that to the community. You guys create something. Let's work on creating an idea of characters that we can relate with. Vortex is doing something like spirit heroes, and then I'm hearing all kinds of short ways of describing those things. Okay. But here, okay, Todo Alasha has a question. What of in the case of animation or my character has some African charm thing going on, Abali stuff? Seriously? See, my thoughts on African and African charms is our charms is just science that we don't fully understand yet. Unfortunately for us in Africa or in the Yoruba land, we don't exactly write down the chemical compositions of the juju or the jar that Babalawo creates, or the mixture, the concoction that they mix up that they put in the ado and everything. But I can tell you that if we break it down, we'll find some radioactive spectrum or electromagnetic impulse or something that is emanating from it to charge up the spirits that can make them do stuff. I'm sure teleportation in Yoruba land is